Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Exchange. Today we have with us Justin, an athlete, a wrestler.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
No problems. It's good to be a guest on your podcast, and you were on my podcast before, so
Yeah.
it's a good exchange.
It is a very good exchange, absolutely. I hope our audience will be able to find your page and watch the interview which I had on your podcast, which was amazing. I
Thank
loved
you.
it.
It was a pleasure having you, and I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of it.
Thank you. And I'm sure our audience will get the value from listening to you as well.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're from, and how did you start wrestling?
Okay, so as a kid, I was diagnosed with dyslexia, and I also had a speech impairment. So growing up wasn't the easiest, especially as a kid, especially being quite unique in a way where a lot of kids couldn't connect with me. So I was bullied a lot, and it just find it hard to actually connect with people. But I found wrestling was my way out, and wrestling helped me on my journey through personal development and my growth journey, where to the point people stopped bullying me, and I started to taste a little bit of success. And once I tasted that little bit of success, I started going down that rabbit hole. And then from there, I started to achieve more and more things in wrestling. And from there, things started to change where I started to do a lot of self-work where people weren't noticing I had a speech impairment and didn't know I had dyslexia because of all the work I was putting in behind the scenes through wrestling, which is helping me at the outer surface as well.
Interesting. Do you find that kids now are getting bullied at school predominantly because of those issues which you had at the time, such as dyslexia or just being different? Do we still have the same issues at school?
I believe there's a good chance it's still happening these days, especially I've seen it happen, and I know a lot of people who have been bullied just because people just don't understand and they just find it quite funny, especially when they see a kid by himself and doesn't know how to connect with people, and they just find different ways to put on them, and it's quite sad to see.
How do you think kids should deal with being bullied?
I think one thing is being able to work on yourself is a big thing, and to speak up in these situations, because a lot of kids tend to keep it to themselves. And if you keep it to yourself, you're only going to cause harm to yourself. And that's why, especially there's a lot of high suicide rates right now with like kids who are being bullied through their disabilities or certain things that they do in their life. And it's quite sad.
Do you think by speaking up actually it might cause more friction in the circle at schools?
It possibly can, but I think you need to be able to stand up for yourself. And I think martial arts and wrestling is a great way to be able to put yourself in that right position so you can stand up for yourself and speak up a bit loudly about it.
Look, I agree with you. For males, it's probably easy to deal with that issue when you can again learn martial art, how to defend yourself. What if the issue among, let's say, females, because girls also getting bullied?
Yes, that's true.
How would you deal with that issue, or what would be your advice for the young girls who are being bullied maybe because of them being overweight, or as you said, being just different?
That's a tough one. And women's psychology is quite different to men, where we're more logical and they're more emotional creatures. So a lot of them has to do with them talking behind each other's backs and just being a real like word bitch to the like other women that don't actually fit in. But it's a sticky situation because I purely don't understand women in that sense, but I think a big thing is obviously martial arts, because I know my sister was in a similar situation to me where she was being bullied in a similar scenario, and wrestling was her way out.
Yeah.
And she was able to establish herself and build up amazing credentials in wrestling, and to the point where people stopped bullying her and they ended up starting to build relationships with her because she was making something of herself.
Do you think people who are actually getting into the martial arts and learn how to defend themselves, do they later on try to revenge for being bullied?
Some people do. I'm not going to lie, but then you have other people, especially when you do, let's say, boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, or jiu-jitsu. It's a humble sport. So you learn how to fight so you don't have to fight.
I don't think it's humble. I've seen so many people actually, after learning the martial art, actually getting on the streets and bashing innocent people just because they have practice.
Course. But there's that exception too, where people do actually bully still, or bully the bully.
Yeah.
And you see those situations happen. But like in an other sense, especially when you see a proper martial artist who is a champion in the sport, are usually quite humble.
Mm-hmm. Which there are not many of them.
Yeah, there's not many of them, but it's so easily to be humbled as well, because like you might think you're the best, but there's always someone around the corner that's going to humble you as well.
Humble you mean put you down?
Yeah, put you down.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. You mentioned that women are different; they're more emotional creatures.
Yes.
It's a very interesting comment. Are you married?
I have a partner.
A partner?
Yeah, but not married yet.
No, okay. For how many years you were with your partner?
About 1 year.
1 year. Is that long term?
Yeah, long term.
Yeah, that's the intention.
That's right.
Okay, very good. I hope she will value your comment.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, back to your career where you started with training, wrestling. How did it get to the stage that you started competing?
Okay, so I was training for a good year. At the first year, it was quite hard, but after I started to make solid progress and my dad was interested in me to actually compete, so he was looking for tournaments across like New South Wales on the internet. Back then it was dial-up internet, like AOL, where you're waiting 15 minutes to be able to log onto the internet.
Yeah, you connect your landline or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then he found a place in, I think the first competition was at Lake Illawarra, and he brought it up to the coaches I had at the time. And the coaches didn't want to club to expose themselves or wanted us to compete. My dad was like, I'll do it with you guys or without you guys.
What year was that?
This was about 2004.
I think Australian internet is still at the same stage. I think it's still as good as the 2004.
Yeah, probably right.
Yeah, okay. Your father literally pushed you.
He pushed me to compete, and I did my first competition, won gold, and I caught the bug for it. And I competed like 15 times that year and ended up winning my first national title in that year as well.
Excellent.
And
what was the main reason your father actually pushed you to compete? Is it something he wanted to pursue in his childhood or in his youth?
No, my dad was a successful coach, especially in Muay Thai. Mm-hmm. So he's trained about 7 world champions, including Australia's first world champion. So he knew in order for you to get better, you need to compete. Mm-hmm. And it's like the Iranian mentality, which he understands well, but he probably wouldn't break it down in this way. One competition is like 3 months worth of training, but you learn so much more through competitions than you ever will in training sessions.
Okay, do you think every child needs to be pushed like you were? Don't you think it might also affect the child? Again, not everyone has a strong mindset as you did. You could have give up and then probably look at yourself and think you didn't achieve what your parents wanted, and it might affect your future eventually, where you would be more judgmental of yourself.
Yeah, and that could be the case as well. And obviously I've seen a lot of kids come and go over the years, especially competing as a youth wrestler. But I think what made me different is I was obsessed with the craft. Mm-hmm. I love the sport. Now I think being bullied at a young age helped me wanting to prove a point to myself that I can do something. And from there, it just sunk in, and it's what I ate, it's what I slept, it's what I breathed every single day. If I wasn't training, I was watching wrestling footage, trying to figure out how I can actually improve. And then I would see stuff on the internet when YouTube was just at its early stages, and I'd be watching techniques over and over again, playing it in normal, slow motion, and then from there, I'll be trying it at training, and then I'll be learning from the coaches as well. And then from there, I was just trying to stick onto the path of training, and I rarely missed the training session unless I was sick or I was like seriously injured.
Okay.
And even when that time I had a minor tear in my meniscus, I still was training.
Any other major injuries you had?
That was probably the worst one.
Yeah.
As well as a hairline tear in my adductor.
Okay. Who was your, I would say, role model in that craft?
A wrestler named TRUEU. So he's a Russian wrestler. So he's a two-time Olympic gold medalist and a multiple-time world champion.
Okay, interesting. Very good. All right, you were wrestling, you were learning. What was the hardest part? Was it more physical challenge or more mindset?
For me, it was mindset, especially when it came to competitions. Like your local competitions, I wasn't too bad, states or nationals, but I was more on the international stage. I usually tend to struggle, especially when you have cameras in your face, lights everywhere, and you have to overcome that difficulty of your mindset.
Yeah.
Because you get in your head a lot. And I think I had to go to the point where I started seeing a sports psychologist, and they taught me about visualization, breathing, and being able to tune into your breath and being able to set a proper routine for yourself for when you wake up in the morning all the way to the time you're about to compete.
Yeah. Did it help?
It helped a lot.
In which countries did you compete?
I've competed in almost 30 different countries. So I've competed in, let's say, in Oceania countries, New Zealand, Oceania. I've also competed in Samoa. I've competed in America, Canada, India, Bulgaria, Azerbaijan, and there's so many more different countries I've competed in.
Who do you think is the hardest wrestlers now?
The three best countries for wrestling is Russia, USA, and Iran. But Japan's not too far behind.
Okay. Is it because in Japan they practicing sumo?
No, they have sumo wrestling.
Sumo wrestling. Yeah.
But they also practice a lot in freestyle wrestling too. So they're quite good, especially in the women's. They're the best in the world.
Are they?
Yeah.
Interesting. How far Australians are from, let's say, being at the same standard as Japan or Iran or Russia?
We're far behind them. Like they're levels ahead of us. But right now in Wrestling Australia, we're making solid progress where wrestling is growing like it's never has before. And I think that has to do a lot with MMA, UFC, jiu-jitsu, and seeing the wrestlers dominated in that circuit. So it's kind of promoting wrestling in a way where a lot of MMA fighters and jiu-jitsu guys know they have to start wrestling in order to advance in their field of sport. So like this year's Nationals probably was the biggest, and we have so many great wrestlers actually coming through, including some of my students.
Okay. You're now coaching?
Yes.
Yeah. How many students do you have right now?
I have probably about 60 plus students.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you coach them one-on-one or it's group exercises?
Some one-on-one and majority of them are groups.
Okay. What do you think Australians or Australia need to do in order to advance that particular sport? Do we need investments or do we need to promote like the sport as entertainment?
It's, like you said, investment, but also setting up a solid program for these athletes so they can actually advance forward. And we're heading towards that right direction where we're programming for a lot of the youth wrestlers. For example, in New South Wales, I help out with the youth programming.
Yeah.
So every school holidays, we run like a 3-day camp for the youth wrestlers during the school holiday break. So we get a lot of the advanced wrestlers coming through and teaching them how to wrestle and how to advance their wrestling skills. But also we are sending a lot of athletes overseas as well. So from there, they can actually be educated more in the sport of wrestling and also being exposed to high-level athletes.
Yeah.
And we're continuing to go down that path, and we're going to see a lot more greater wrestlers coming out in the future. And we're reaching to a point as well where you said make wrestling more entertaining. It's coming down to that path now where it's a lot more entertaining, especially where you can't be a defensive wrestler. You have to be more offensive, otherwise you get called for passivity. So you're forced to always engage. And those that are counter wrestlers are usually more entertaining as well because they have to work offense as well as their defense.
Yeah. I think the biggest risk for any athlete is what's happening after the career ends. Because you can't wrestle until you're 50 or 40. The career probably ends in the mid-30s, I would say,
Yeah.
the latest. What would be the pathway for the successful wrestler after his career ends?
That's a good question. And I think that's one thing a lot of people get stuck in, not just in wrestling, but for like fighters as well, where a lot of fighters don't know what to do with their life after they finish competing or finish fighting, where a lot of them tend to go back into the sport and continue to compete because that's all they know.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't think about their future, where it's important for some people to get an education, or some people who don't need an education that are quite entrepreneurial can actually start their own businesses in their own passions. It's just discovering what your passions lie in, especially after when you finish wrestling. And I think Olympics is doing a good job with that, especially with a lot of the athletes, where they're creating business opportunity for these athletes to be able to venture off into creating their own businesses or becoming like anchor people or anything that they're interested in pursuing, really. So I think it's just finding something that you're passionate about and study that on the side and try to get experience on the side as well as when you're competing until to the point where you can use that as a replacement for when you retire from the sport.
But do you think you can juggle both, considering you need to put so many hours into training, again, competition, traveling? You most probably won't be able to juggle both.
It's hard. And there's a good book I like, and it's called The One Thing. And it's best we focus on building on that one thing first and get good at it.
Yeah.
And once you get good at it, then it's easier to progress into other things afterwards. But yeah, being an athlete is like a full-time job.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
training 3 to 4 sessions a day and you're dedicating your life to it. So it's hard to juggle anything else. Like you might be able to fit in like hours of study behind it and also being able to work as well. But your main obsession is the actual sport itself.
Are there any scholarships in Australia for wrestlers?
Not at the moment, but what we try to do, especially I know for my athletes, I want them to be able to study, let's say in the USA, because they do have good scholarships for a lot of the athletes there. And there's great opportunities for them to be able to compete, get good endorsements through sponsorship.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good way to go at the moment until we're able to create scholarships like this.
Yeah, I think the big issue in Australia with the cost of living crisis, the athletes probably give up, or wrestlers or athletes in general give up their dreams and just start focusing on their full-time or casual jobs and just try maybe to create some business opportunities. And that particular dream just goes away, goes out of the window, because again, there is a trade-off. However, in Australia, if the government or universities would subsidize their studies, maybe fund their training, most probably in Australia you would have way more athletes who wouldn't give up their dreams.
No, it's true. And I think that's a big element for a lot of the athletes that are succeeding compared to the ones that are not, is how much their parents are actually investing into them. And unfortunately, not every parent can support and provide to their children to that ability where they can help their children get better. And it gets to the point where these kids actually have to work and have to sacrifice their training to be able to provide. And yeah, these things happen. But I think we're heading into a time too where there is a lot more sponsorship happening, where a lot of people are investing into athletes. So if they can, it's best to be able to find sponsorship for the athletes so they can be looked after and be able to stick to their training. But yeah, it's one of those sad things when you do see such a talented kid who has a lot going for him, but doesn't have that financial support
Yeah.
for him to progress forward.
And there were many examples: soccer players, rugby players, any athletes actually, who couldn't afford that particular sport and they just give up. And I think maybe one of the biggest issues in Australia is because the country is so small,
Yes.
and we have other alternative sports which public is focusing on, such as rugby predominantly, for example, maybe horse racing, and where the martial arts stays away, it
Yes.
doesn't attract enough attention, and maybe that's why there are not enough investments.
Yeah, and that's true. And when you think about it too, except if you're in one of those leading sports, like our sports are like a hobby here. And when you look at other countries, it's more of a way of life. It's a way they put bread on the table. And it's unfortunate when we see these things where it is more of a hobby, but a lot of these athletes want to take it seriously to the point where that's where they want to put bread on the table. But we don't get that financial support from the government bodies like other sports do. And I wish hopefully one day these things will change, and being able to help these athletes follow through into their actual dreams of becoming a professional athlete.
Yeah, obviously wrestling wasn't your hobby. What were your hobbies?
When I was a kid,
Yes.
so as a kid, that's a tough one. I was so obsessed with wrestling. Like, that's my tunnel vision was, that's all I saw. So like as a 14-year-old kid, I discovered The Secret, and I actually started journaling.
Oh,
And I wrote down every goal I wanted to accomplish into detail, and I wrote specific deadlines, the dates,
Wow.
and I was looking at the calendars, and I was like, okay, I want to compete in all these competitions. And I just stuck with training, and I was training like 6 days a week, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day. And a matter of the time when I reached 18, I already marked off about 85 to 90% of what I written down.
wow, excellent.
Yeah.
Are you still writing anything down?
Yes, I do. I journal a lot of the time, but nowadays I tend to focus more on visualizing as well as praying, because I feel those two things is what helps bring a lot more opportunities my way.
Okay. All right. We understand when you were a child, you didn't have any hobbies.
Yes.
You just were focusing on wrestling. What about currently? Do you have any hobbies? How do you entertain yourself?
There's a few ways. So obviously one is going on adventures with my partner, trying out different cafes or restaurants. I also love traveling. So I probably travel at least 3 to 5 times a year overseas. And I love to fish when I ever get the free time to. Yeah, I just love being outdoors in nature and being able to see beautiful sides of like the creation of the world.
Yeah. What is your favorite country right now to visit?
Okay, so recently I enjoyed Dubai. So that was a great country where it was amazing to see where 56 to 60 years ago, everything was just desert. And what they built within that time is phenomenal. And it does, you wouldn't even know it was like desert like 60 years before on how well they built up the city of Dubai and also Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, the Emirates are amazing. I've been there recently as well,
Yes.
and it's excellent. What do you like about Dubai? Apart of course, it being advanced so much, you probably like again maybe restaurants.
Yes, I love the restaurants. I love how it's a entrepreneurial hub as well, where it's a great place to make connections.
Yeah,
And I know quite a few of my friends actually moved to Dubai,
yeah,
especially just for those opportunities where their businesses are actually thriving over in Dubai more than it was here. So they're continuing their journey down there and trying to build their success down that way. And I feel that is a great opportunity for you to be able to grow professionally.
Can you see yourself moving to Dubai? Maybe coaching?
I see myself going there to do like workshops and be able to do short trip opportunities, but not so much living there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other countries you would actually live in?
I love Europe. Europe's amazing.
Any particular country?
I recently went to Germany. I love Germany, and I almost missed my flight to be able to live there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still when I was like an athlete, and I wanted to wrestle in the Bundesliga,
Yeah.
which is their wrestling league. And I just love the culture on how simple life is there.
Is it simple in Germany?
Well, where I was anyway, it was in Leipzig. So I was spending 5 months in Europe. So I was in Poland, in the UK, and Germany.
Mm-hmm.
But just because I was just focusing on training and I was competing while I was in Europe, I just fell in love with that lifestyle.
Yeah. How good are the German wrestlers?
They're good. They're probably like here, and then you have like Russia, Germany, no, Russia, Iran, USA, Japan that are up here, but they're not that far behind.
Yeah.
They're a lot more advanced than what we are in Australia, but they're not that far from the other countries as well.
Do you like German cuisine?
I didn't mind it.
What is it? German sausages?
German sausages and was it Sprouse or I liked it.
Cabbage?
Cabbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Beer?
Beer.
German
I was so funny. I was like walking on the streets as well, and just as in the morning, like in Australia, we're so used to coffees or cafes being open at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, yes.
So I was walking around at like 7 or 8, realizing everything was closed. It's like, why is everything closed? And then you see some Germans with a beer in their hand just walking around. I was like, wow, this is so different.
Is it? I see it in Australia sometimes.
Yeah, I see it in Australia, but I know. I think I noticed it more, especially when you're on holidays. You tend to be more aware of
Yeah.
different things surrounding you.
How strict are the athletes with their diet, with their drinking habits?
I found it was pretty strict from what I saw. I think they were more drinking when they were going to like watching a soccer game.
For example, you as a coach right now, do you train your students on a diet, on again maybe some habits such as alcohol or
Yeah,
drugs, especially in Australia?
yes.
It's a very big issue. I think in Australia we're on the list. I think the first in cocaine consumption, if I'm not mistaken. And then again, of course, kids now consume a lot of marijuana. Again, some people don't consider it as a drug. It's maybe used for different purposes.
True.
Do you coach on these particular topics?
Well, I educate them in the importance of having a good diet, but I wouldn't say I prescribe them with it. I would actually recommend them to see a dietitian or a nutritionist who specializes in that area, where the area I focus on is their wrestling as well as building on their mindset.
Yeah.
And if they need further education on the mindset, then I'll send them off to someone who is a specialist in that field.
How do you coach on their mindset? What is your program? Is it a one-off session, or you have a number of sessions where you repeat the same topic, or is broken down into different parts?
It's broken down into different parts, and each athlete is different because we all suffer from different obstacles. For example, some might struggle in competition. So from what I've learned through my sports psychologist who worked with multiple Olympic champions, is creating a strong regime where you want to focus on tapping more into your breath work, visualization, and focusing on the things that are in the present. And from there, being able to build a point where you're able to put yourself in that right state of mind or flow where you can progress forward into being able to succeed on the mats. And it's being able to be aware on those little things when you step onto the mat. What leg does your opponent stand with forward? How can I break him down rather than being overwhelmed with the competition?
Yeah.
In a whole, where I want to break it down to a point where they are more in the present moment so they can just be focusing on what they have to do.
Yeah.
And I teach them the importance of wanting to be the best and wanting to strive for more in everything that you do, and not having the ability to get lazy on your craft, but to stick on the path and then that journey. And obviously there are going to be distractions along the way, but it's your job to be able to have that tunnel vision to see exactly where you're going. And then talking about journaling, a lot of my athletes journal after their sessions on what they've learned, how they can progress forward, and what they did well.
Is it important to journal on a daily basis or after the training?
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
If it's like wake up in the morning and just journaling your thoughts, I find it's a way to journal down your thoughts and what's going through your mind, your emotions, everything. It keeps you in check. But in training, it helps you progress forward on keeping track on how your sessions are like going, and how you're performing, and how you can improve in the following session by using what you've learned in the previous session.
If you look back at your career, do you think you could have pushed yourself more? Do you think you could have achieved more, or you think you've done your best at that particular time frame?
To a point where I was obsessed with the craft, I felt like I've done enough. But I also feel there were some points in my life where certain distractions got in the way and I could have done more.
Yeah. What would you change in your past?
I think being in a certain relationship and wanting to have a break from wrestling kind of like broke away from me from competing for about 3 years, especially wanting to discover myself. So I would have to say giving myself that time to recover and enjoy the time I had in my life, where I never really gave myself to a chance to actually have a break. Because I was so obsessed with the craft. And from there, I ended up burning myself out after like 13 years of competing. And from there, for like 3 to 4 years, even though I was still coaching on the side, I was trying to discover who I was as a person. Because I never gave myself that chance to discover who I was. So from there, I had a big gap, and I knew if I haven't had that big gap, I could have progressed more in wrestling, and I would have achieved a lot more than I already have in the sport.
Is it now a regret, or it's something you actually trying to maybe convey to other people that they shouldn't maybe take those breaks?
Yeah, it's something that I've learned and I convey to other people, where I help keep on track and teach them about what I went through and how they need to have rest when they can, and to enjoy themselves, have hobbies and do things that they enjoy. Otherwise, they're going to end up like I was, where I burnt myself to the ground and I ended up dropping out of the sport and not enjoying the sport for a number of years because I didn't know who I was as a person. I only knew who I was as an athlete.
Was your father supportive of your break?
Yeah, he was.
He was?
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of people, not just including like my family, especially in the wrestling community, were disappointed that I was taking a long break, because they knew I was a talented wrestler and I could make solid progress in the sport of wrestling. But just because the way I took the path and not having that right mentor outside of, like, say, my family that can push me and educate me on the path I needed to go is what led me down to that path. And that's why I try to be that person to my athletes. I'm not just a coach to them, but I'm a mentor. I mentor them through their life and guide them through the journeys they are going through, and I teach them the lessons that I went through and how I failed, but how they can overcome those obstacles. And I think that's a big thing, where the way I see my coaching, I want to make my athletes better than I ever was.
Yeah, that's excellent. It sounds like your father was very supportive. He was, in the same time, maybe pushy.
Yes.
What about your mother?
Did
she play a big role in your career?
Yes, she did. She was so supportive. And it was quite funny, like in the early years, when I started competing, her motive for me for winning was give me $50 every time I won a gold medal as a kid. Like at 11, 12 years old, that's a lot of money for you. So I was like doing my best to win like the competition just so I can get $50.
This probably was in your journal, $50.
Yeah, exactly. But from there, she just supported me wherever I wanted to go. Let's say if I wanted to live overseas when I just turned 18, I moved to Canada. And she played a big role in that for me to move to Canada.
Excellent.
Helping me get a visa and being able to live there for a year and a bit.
Yeah. Did you move there to compete, to study, or just to relax? To
Compete, and also I was studying a little bit when I was there. So I was more sitting down in classes studying kinesiology with the girl I was dating at the time because I was just fascinated by it.
Fascinating by studying or fascinating by the woman you were dating?
Both.
But, was she French?
French Canadian,
French
yeah.
Canadian, okay. Do you speak French?
Only a little bit.
Okay.
Like my Russian.
Your Russian is quite advanced.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you dated, you moved to Canada, you had a good time, and then you came back to Australia.
Yeah. It's quite an interesting story, and it was kind of my downfall of me taking a break from wrestling. Especially, I was at that point where I was a good candidate for making the Olympics, and a lot of people were supporting me during that time. So the Canadian team believed I was going to make the Olympics. The coaches, wrestling president at the time, and I was winning all the qualifications for making the Olympics. And it came to winning the Oceanas, which is a big tournament here in this region. And the next step was Oceania Africana. But after I won that gold, I went home and I was celebrating with my partner at the time online. And she looked sad. And I asked her, like, is everything okay? What's wrong? And she ended up breaking up with me.
No way.
Yeah.
What was her name?
I won't say her name, but...
You should.
Yeah.
Her name was Josephine, I already know. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. But I was devastated, and
God.
obviously first love, it hurts the most. And I wanted to figure out why, and I ended up moving back to Canada. But the time I moved back to Canada, it was off season, so no one was really training. So that month before I was meant to compete at Oceania Africana, where I had to place top 2 to be able to make the Olympic Games, I wasn't training.
You were dealing with your personal
I was dealing with my
matters.
personal stuff, and most of the time I was stuck in my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And I went to the competition. I felt like I had no strength, and I was broken because I didn't make it. And I remember being in a dark room, throwing tables and chairs, swearing, and I was like just cursing everything around me just because of that event happening. And for 2 years later, I was still competing, but it still affected me.
Yeah. Did you understand what had happened? Why the person decided to break up?
I do. And obviously, she was interested in someone else, as well as obviously at the time, I was obsessed with wrestling, and she knew I loved wrestling more than her as well. And I think that played a big part into the ending of the relationship.
I understand you have to say that because of your current partner. But
That's okay.
Look,
We speak about these things, so it's all good.
Look, I understand so much how personal relationship can affect your mindset, and especially when you try to focus on your craft. And when your mind is not there, you just lose it. You lose everything, actually.
Yes.
And look, I feel really sorry for you because you were working towards that, towards winning that Oceania, and it didn't happen. It's probably left a big scar. That's what I feel. But again, you're doing now so much by coaching people, by again sharing your personal story, what you went through, and of course we're all humans. We're all going through those emotions. But I think if you can, and that's what you do, you're coaching people how to overcome those emotions. I think that's very valuable for them.
Definitely. And it's good because a lot of my athletes now are progressing forwards in a way where I wish I had those opportunities that they're getting now, where a few of my athletes are getting noticed by the American national coaches, or
Yeah.
even like in the Japanese like community, where they are noticed by the Olympic medalists, the Olympic coaches in Japan, and they're wanting them to train there more.
Yeah.
And from there, they're progressing in a way I wish I had.
Yeah.
And it makes me a proud coach to see them being able to succeed in a way that I wish I could have as a kid.
Yeah. Do you have a actual passion and drive to coach just in Australia, or you think if there is an opportunity you would move overseas and coach, let's say in Japan?
That's a good question.
If an opportunity comes.
I see myself for the next 7 years coaching in Australia, but I see myself doing a lot of workshops overseas. And I already do a lot of traveling for coaching overseas already.
Yeah.
But that's more coaching the national team in wrestling. But I do see myself having those opportunities to do that. But I also see after that time, after I finish my coaching, to get into more motivational speaking and diving deeper into my podcast as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the world is our oysters, and I just have faith that everything will happen according to plan.
According to your plan.
Yes.
You're the one who writing the journal.
Yes.
That's excellent. What would be your message to not only to our listeners, but let's say to all your students? What would be your one message which you can deliver through this camera lens?
Just keep doing what you're doing. Stick on the path. Don't let anything distract you or persuade you away from your dreams. Hold it tight, because that is your vision, your future, and going down that path of winning a world championships or medaling at the Olympics will open up so many doors of opportunities you can only imagine. So the world is your oyster. Go out and get it, because you deserve it.
What an excellent end to the podcast. Thank you very much, Justin.
Thank you.
You're amazing. And I really loved your energy and being honest and transparent and just being yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pleasure having me.
Thank you.